Hi everybody, this is just going to be a short tutorial on how to use Z2Edit to generate rooms for the Room Jam. This is not going to be a highly detailed tutorial. This is just sort of the basics so that you can get in here and start working around. If you have any questions, you can ask them in the Discord, and I can get some more detailed answers on how to do specific things. But again, I don't use this a ton, and so I'm not going to be the most expert person to answer all of the detailed questions. But anyway, let's get some basics here. So this is Z2Edit. I've already selected my vanilla ROM file. You could start from a vanilla ROM, or you could start from a edited or randomized ROM of your choice. Anything works. Doesn't matter. Do what you want to do. So I have gone to the top and I've selected the overworld editor, and I'm just going to right click on P1 here and hit view area. And you can see here's Vanilla Palace 1. So you can make a new room, or you can edit an existing room. My preference is to edit existing rooms just because they have a bunch of stuff set up already and you don't risk accidentally missing something. So I'm going to click on this item room. So the first thing that's a little bit weird about Z2Edit is a lot of the labels for things are to the right of the thing, not to the left of the thing. So, for example, this zoom is actually this thing on the left. So I can zoom this into 2 times and I get a much cleaner view of everything that's going on in this room. You can also, from this top section, select this screen feature. Shows you the room separated into its individual pages. This can be useful for a reason that I'll get to later. And finally, at the bottom, we've got all of our different things that actually control how the room is built. Map commands, connections, enemies, item availability, and this swap copy utility. I'm not going to get into this, but this is used to copy rooms to other rooms to help you out for designing stuff. Item availability, seriously, when in doubt, just have all the boxes checked. I could get into details if you'd like with you, but that controls some initialization stuff for the rooms that you probably don't need to care about. Next, we've got an enemy list. Enemies, as you can see, we just select them from a list. These enemies are all by IDs. There is in the wiki on GitHub a description of what each of these IDs mean, but it's important to remember when you're designing a room that this ID 18 is an orange iron knuckle because it's in Palace 1, but if an enemy is in a different palace, for example, if this were Palace 6, ID 18 might not necessarily be the same enemy. In the case of orange iron knuckle, it is, but for a lot of these, they'll be different things. For example, the fire that you see in like P4, for example, turns into a single Bago Bago in Palaces 1, 2, and 5. So there's a conversion table for those that's printed on the wiki in case you're interested. But enemy positions are very, very basic. We've got a Y position, we've got an X position, and we just set the enemy to wherever we want it to be. For connections, it is important that your connections be set to something. So outside goes outside, and other than that, you could select any room you want for all of these connections to go to. Before you submit your room, be careful that every single connection that you intend to be a valid connection points to a room that isn't room 0 or outside. For example, here we can see in vanilla that the right exit leads to room 9, which makes sense. That's the vanilla room next to it. However, these exits point to room 0, which is the entrance. My preference, and the randomizer will do this automatically, is to set those exits to be outside. But if they're 0, it should still work the same way. However, because this room is intended to have a right exit, it's important that this point to something. The reason for that is that the randomizer is using this exits table to determine what the valid exits for this room are according to the logic. So it's not important for your submission that it point to any particular room, just that it points to something. In this case, 9 is fine. If you really want to, you can have it point to itself. That also works. But as long as each valid exit points to some exit, or some room that exists. Map commands is going to be where the most detailed section occurs. In this room, it's pretty simple, because there's not that many things going on. But this could get extremely complicated in the kinds of rooms that I'll show later. The first thing is some of these options on the top. Stuff like grass and bushes doesn't do anything because this is a palace. But sometimes the tile sets or floor types can do interesting things. Right here, we've got our choice of different tile sets, and they can control some different things. In some kind of palace sets, this can give you like outside rooms and stuff. Play around with it, see what you like. And you can get some interesting effects on things like background maps and palettes and stuff like that. Obviously, some of them do some funky things that maybe you shouldn't mess with, but feel free to play around with it and find something you like. At the bottom here, we have the command list. Each of these commands has a bunch of different parts that control what it does. The Y position flag is a special flag that does different things. So here, initially, we can see the Y position flag is controlling the Y position of this candle. However, if you increment the Y condition flag down to 13, 14, 15, these are special values that say instead your command is actually a different type of command. This is related to how things are handled internally. A new floor command specifies that your parameters are adjusting the floor. So we can say how many X positions do I want to adjust this floor, and then I can control this param flag to say, okay, this is a floor that's 0 blocks up, 1 block up, 2 blocks up, 3 blocks up, 4 blocks up, etc. That increments until you get to 8, and then it starts to come down from the ceiling. So I could, in this room, have this here. Next, I'm going to insert a new command. I can control click to copy. So I'm going to put in a new command. I'm going to move it down. I'm also going to make it a type 13 to say I have a new floor. I'm going to iterate it over a couple positions on the X. You can see at the bottom here, there are now markers indicating where they are. And I can click on these. To modify them like this, I can right click on them. And so now I can say this floor has a height of 2. And I can copy again, and I can move a couple over, and now this one has a height of 3. And so I could build a staircase in this way, or all sorts of other stuff. So these new floor commands on 13 are very helpful. Number 14 is an X skip. This is just saying go however many positions over. So I can skip forward on that. The X skip isn't necessarily that needed. You could do a lot of the same things with these new floor commands. This is more used internally by the game. And finally, 15 is an extra object command. This allows you to place all these sorts of fancy, funky things, right? Windows, clouds, environmental objects that aren't necessarily enemies, but they're still things that you could want. And some of these have special properties as well. You can see here, there was one of these previously. I am using OF collectible, and now there's an additional parameter that says, well, which collectible you want it to be. It isn't important at all that you set which of these. Feel free to just make them, like if you're going to make a new item room, just put a candlelit or something anyway. The randomizer is going to handle which actual item type it should be in each of these cases. But just put something there just to make it clear to other people. So you can also, once you've placed your rules, you can drag these objects around, right? I could drag this iron knuckle around, drop it somewhere else, and it should automatically update my commands in the command list to represent the new positions for them, right? So if I go to enemies, you can see the X and Y coordinates for this iron knuckle are being updated automatically. Similarly, I can drag my floor commands around. Right now that I have pasted these extra floor commands, if I'm like, I want to make this staircase a little more gradual or a little bit steeper, I can drag these around manually to do that. Once I've decided that everything in my room is good, because I'm a crazy person and think this is a good room, but regardless, once I've got everything set and I feel that this is good, I'm ready to export this and then submit it to the channel. This is going to be covered in the next video, and I'll have a link to that in the description here. If you have any questions or would like some details on how to handle a specific case, go ahead and ask me. I'm open to all sorts of ideas and submissions and different things that people can do. But generally speaking, if you could build it with Z2Edit, we now have pretty decent support for it. But if you have something that you think is really wild that you want to know ahead of time, let me know and I can give you the okay. That's it for now. Thank you for taking the time to submit rooms and vote on them. And hopefully we can have a bunch of cool new rooms in